Good afternoon. I'm Liz Reyes. Breaking news at this hour. Attorney General Liz Murrill threatens she could try and remove New Orleans Mayor Helena Moreno, 5 council members, and District Attorney Jason Williams from office. Chris Joseph reports Murrill released a series of scathing letters to the city's elected leaders during a conflict over who is the Orleans Parish Clerk. Chris.
Well, Murrill's letters targeted the elected leaders who supported the appointment of interim clerk Calvin Johnson. 5 city council members out of 7 voted to appoint Johnson, and in doing so effectively removed civil clerk Chelsea Richard Napoleon from her post. She was overseeing both criminal and civil clerkships. Now that came about because state lawmakers merged both positions this spring, giving the role to Napoleon. Now, a majority of council members argued that in doing so, lawmakers created a new position, which required a new election and the appointment of Johnson. Napoleon argues that's illegal and the new position doesn't exist, and is ultimately suing to get herself back installed as clerk. Now, Murrill sent those letters to the 5 council members, including Council President J.P. Murrill.
I cannot speak to the underlying merits or lack thereof in the letter, because the city attorney is currently reviewing it, and that is our attorney. What I can say is this: I do find it tremendously interesting that the clerk, the former clerk, is currently in litigation with the council, where a court will make a final determination regarding the merits of the council's position.
Now, the letters challenged Murrill and others to rescind their votes. There's now some question as to whether Napoleon or Johnson will lead the office through the primary election scheduled this Saturday. An East Baton Rouge judge is scheduled to hear the arguments on Napoleon's lawsuit Monday morning. Liz?
Thank you, Chris. State House lawmakers also passed a bill to reduce the number of judges in Orleans Parish. It cuts civil, criminal, and juvenile court judgeships. Orleans Criminal Court will now have 9 judges instead of 12. It now heads back to the Senate. A Louisiana State Senate committee approved a new congressional map this morning after the U.S. Supreme Court tossed out the current maps as based on race and say that's illegal federally. The decision keeps 1 of 2 majority black districts. It got approved after hours of debate. This is a proposed map by West Monroe State Senator